Welcome to the first Java Refresher video. Here we're going to understand the basics of JavaScript. I am in the Visual Studio Code, and what you need to run JavaScript on your machine is a code editor. I'm using Visual Studio Code. It is simply a very good uh, code editor, and you can install it pretty easily. And then you need to install Node or npm in your machine, so you can do that too. Now, what we're going to understand? We're going to understand the difference between lat, var, and const. What is the basic difference between? First of all, let's get done with the const. Const, you can define any constant with it. Let's say if I give the value of pi here 3.14. Now, throughout the application, throughout this JavaScript program, the value of pi cannot be changed. If I try to change the value of pi, it will not be changed. It will throw an error. So, whenever we are going to pass a variable that is not going to change, we use the const. Now, you can use the const mainly for the API key. Now, the APIs that we use, they have API keys, and that the keys do not change. The keys is a constant. So mainly all the functions and API keys are written in constant, so that no one can change them. Now let us understand the difference between let and var. Now let and var have quite a difference in them. Now var is a global, you can say, scope. Var has a global scope, and let is by the scope or bounded by the scope it is declared in. Let us understand it by an example. I'm writing a function here, say a function parent. Here I am declaring a var x is equals to 10. I am checking if x equal to 10, then I'll be initializing another variable var y value 5, and I'll be logging out the values of x and y in this scope, in the scope of this if statement. Now outside of this scope of this if statement, I am also going to logging out x and y. Now let's see if I call this function, will this function display the value of y outside the scope or not. As you can see, it is displaying the value outside the scope. Now let me change this var to the let. Now as you can see, the scope of this variable x is the parent function, and if is a part of the parent function, so the value x is available throughout the scope of the parent function. So that's why we are getting this output. Now if we want to see the real use of let me change this to let. Let's see whether this will work or not. As you can see, it is giving me the y is not defined. Why is it giving me y is not defined? Well, it is giving me y is not defined because y is outside the scope where it was defined. It was defined in the if scope here. Now you cannot use y outside the scope because it is initialized with let. This is the basic difference between var and let. Now you will be mainly using let and const, not using var, because when you declare a variable inside a function, you'll be declaring many variables inside the functions throughout the React project. Now, you don't want any other function or any other piece of code to change that value because it is outside the scope. Only by invoking the function, only inside the function, that the value can be changed. So that's why we'll only be using let and const here. So let us understand the basics of arrays in the JavaScript. Let's say I create a const arr and I give it the value of 1, 2, 3, 4. Now some basic operations on array are arr dot push. Now by writing dot push, we can add element at the end. Let's say if this works. Now why is it giving me 5? This is giving me 5 because it is okay, let me just change it. This should be here. As you can see, we have added the 10 at the end. Also, instead of push, you can use unshift. It will do the same job for you. Just it will add the variable at the starting of the array instead of the end. Now there's another for popping or for removing the elements. We have shift, not take any variable. As you can see, it removed everything. Not everything. It removed the first element from the array. Will remove element from the last. These are the basic fundamental uh, operations we are going to see in arrays. Now there's another important thing that we have to learn is map. Let's say if I want to map the values of the array in certain way that I want to multiply all of them by 2. I can do that by for loop, but map gives us more functionality. So let's see the map in the second video.